what I'm trying to expose here is that we were here. I was enjoying my time with Trump out of the country. I really was. I mean, I like I said, it was rainy, it was pouring, but he wasn't here, he wasn't tweeting, his focus was elsewhere. So it was really good to have him distracted for that time. But it seems like, I kid you not, the instant this man came back into the country, which was Friday night, I got some either food poisoning or some kind of stomach virus or something. Something happened because all weekend, it kind of rained on my Memorial Day parade. So happy belated Memorial Day to everybody. I hope you all had a good celebratory weekend, maybe a little bit better than mine was, because I was just not feeling it. And I will say quickly, I'm doing a live stream right now. I've never done a live stream before, so if something is wrong, please forgive me. It is a work in progress. I got up to tape yesterday. Actually, I got up because I was fairly under the weather last evening. It was really late. It just kind of, I knew I wasn't going to be able to set up the studio the way it needed to be and then set up the equipment and tape an episode and edit it and post it. That whole process is about an 8-hour process, even though it's like a 30-minute video. So I apologize for that. But this is a little different. It's a bit of experimentation. You see there's a logo, and all this is reversed. There's a logo for the company name whose encoder I'm testing out right now. And if it works well, and if the format works well, then I might invest in that and take this approach as a live stream as opposed to just a pre-recorded effort. So I say all that to say, speaking briefly about last night, I went to bed around 12. I tried getting to bed, and I couldn't because I wasn't really feeling well. And I kind of finally got out of bed around like 1:30, only to be further sickened by Trump's Twitter. And it's like, I check Twitter because I'm always on there, and I see Coffee. And I was like, what the hell is Coffee? What is everybody talking about? Obviously, I don't follow Trump, so I didn't see like it as his tweet. And so all of a sudden, I see like everyone's saying coffee fee, and it's the #1 trending topic. I was like, it had to be Trump. It had to be something that he typed out. So I go check his page, and sure enough, he's like mid-sentence. I'm sure he was saying coverage because the way the sentence was structured, he had to have been saying coverage. But either way, coffee fee, and everyone's making coffee fee jokes and all that nonsense. So I actually don't have any coffee fee here to drink. I will be drinking water. I know devotees like it when I take a sip of the French press. But getting back to the national embarrassment that is Donald Trump. He spent not very long abroad, but in that very short amount of time, he managed to cause a lot of harm. One of the biggest, most striking takeaways from that entire week was Angela, I like to say Angela, because y'all want to call her Angela Merkel and all this other stuff. American English, Angela Merkel, the Prime Minister of Germany, and the leader of the free world, not this trio between Trudeau and Macron, who's been in office for like 3 days. Love Macron, but he's not there yet. So Angela Merkel, the leader of the free world, stated, the days that Europe can completely rely on others are over to a certain extent. And this was simply in response to Donald Trump's absurd behavior, shoving the Prime Minister of Montenegro out of the way to be first in line, condemning all of the NATO countries about their 2%, and a lot of things that make Vladimir Putin very happy. As a matter of fact, all of the comments that have been sort of stated over the last few days by Trump have been echoed by Vladimir Putin himself. Regards to American fake news and the whole Trump-Russia conspiracy being a ploy by the Democrats to sort of save face from the loss at the election, which is sort of absurd. So all of this stuff has had unfolding. Angela Merkel has had multiple run-ins with Donald Trump that we've seen. And so, I believe it was yesterday at a press conference with Sean Spicer, he was told, they asked him asked him about Trump's relationship with Merkel. And he goes, I think the relationship that the president has with Merkel he would describe as fairly unbelievable. They get along very well. He has a lot of respect for her. It's kind of like you invite her to the White House, you refuse to shake her hand after she asks you to shake her hand. You give them this whole lecture and speech at the podium about NATO not paying their way and America wanting to pull out of NATO and all this other stuff. So, you've seen over and over and over again where Trump is actively working to weaken our alliances with Europe. Just today, it wasn't officially announced yet, but it's basically been stated on the record that the idea is that Trump's position on the Paris Climate Accord is that he's going to pull the United States from it. Now, I don't know how. I hate that the president has enough power to just do that by himself, but the reality is this is where we are with three non-functioning branches of government. The Supreme Court might go one way, but the GOP-led House and Senate would surely go along with this, even if they had say to it. You also have the president who's an idiot, so he's going to go with whatever. But this weakens us. This weakens the environment. This is a step in the wrong direction. And yet it really is just another unprecedented attack on President Barack Obama. It's just a way to erase his legacy, further, not even humiliate him, but just take away every aspect of progress that he's made. And also Hillary Clinton put a lot of effort into that proposal as well. And so to get all of those countries on board and then to just have it thrown out because Trump has this, small penis complex against Barack Obama, it's just really unfortunate that the future is going to be what it is, largely in part because of this one sort of, sour grapes decision. Doubling back to Macron, who is amazing. We all saw where he did his little grip handshake on Trump. So that was one up for Macron. But then, earlier this week, I believe it was Monday, on Memorial Day here, he had a meeting with Vladimir Putin and then a following press conference. And this man did not pull any punches. This dude was literally standing up to him point blank about really everything. And even went as far as to call out Chechnya. There has been this ongoing story or actual happening of these camps, basically internment camps, that are there to house and punish gays in Chechnya, which I'm sure is a part of Russia. Again, forgive me, I'm still trying to get there. But this story has been going on for some time. And so Macron announced that France would take refugees from there to save them from persecution based on their sexual orientation. So that is a fantastic revelation that we've seen over the last really 48 hours. We talk really frequently about the resistance, and I think the resistance is not one thing. I think we always look at it as, okay, how far are we getting on this Trump impeachment? But there's a lot more to it. And a lot of it is just sort of awareness and setting the tone for the future, for future elections. I think France is a really good example of successful positive resistance because you have a situation where there really should not have been. France, for all intents and purposes, was under the same attack that we were, except they were able to work around it and have a fair election, have a good election that elected somebody who's working in the steps of progress. And so that's fantastic. We really didn't, I don't know that we celebrated that as much as we probably should have, but that's great, and I'm really glad that he's in place. Macron is. The good thing about but also the resistance is local to us, right? So we can look at races like Gianforte, the big sky body slammer from what is that state? Montana. And I'm just like, okay, this man is literally body slamming journalists, and where are we going with this? So either way, we have this continual degradation of the GOP, right? It didn't start with the big sky body slammer, but it definitely was solidified by that. And you have this situation where it's been getting worse, right? So in Texas, it must have been over the weekend, where they had this discussion on, forgive me for not knowing exactly what it was, but there was a discussion related to immigrant rights. And this was at the House floor, the State House or whatnot. And one of the guys literally called, one of the GOP legislators called ICE on protesters who said that they were undocumented immigrants. I mean, where are we now? Like, this has just become, it's getting to that police state. And if you look back at previous episodes, I really hope that you will, the one with the yellow background, we talked about this, the whole setup and the whole establishment of all these arms, these other arms that are being in place, ICE, and the challenge on voting rights, the continual challenge on voting rights, the bringing up of the large electoral college victory, and Trump would have won the popular vote if 3 million illegal Mexicans didn't vote in the, and that's air quoting illegal Mexicans, voted on the whole, voted in the election, saying that California basically is not a legitimate state to have grounds to vote in an election. I mean, how do you do that? I don't know. But I will skip ahead to something that happened yesterday. And this was a pretty big story, Kathy Griffin. And it was short-lived. Kathy. I love Kathy Griffin. I've always been a fan of hers. I think her whole pitch, I've liked her since she was doing cameos on Seinfeld. I think she's really funny. And when she had My Life on the D-List, I was a really big fan. But at some point in her having My Life on the D-List and then getting Emmy awards and Emmy nominations and all that kind of stuff, she became too Hollywood. It's like she became too A-list to really stay in that character of D-lister. And so now I don't really know I'm not as familiar with Kathy Griffin. I know she's been doing some stuff with the Resistance, and she was on Joy Reid show at one point. Shout out to Joy Reid, AM Joy, which comes on every Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. from 10 a.m. to noon on MSNBC. Cheap plug. I hope to be seeing more of Joy soon. But yeah, I just think Kathy Griffin is great. But that photo shoot was nasty. It was tasteless. It was really in poor taste. And that's as far as I'm going to go on it. Now, what's ironic about that whole show, that showing and everybody's outrage, of course the GOP's outrage of Kathy Griffin's photo shoot, and you can look up Kathy Griffin photo Trump and you'll find what it is. I don't need to put that here. But, you had everyone, as far as Mitt Romney claiming that was just vile and below the pale and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, Mitt Romney, boo, do you not forget that Ted Nugent sat at an NRA conference and said that he would be in jail or dead for killing Barack Obama if Barack Obama was reelected in 2012. He literally endorsed you, dude. He actually stated at an NRA conference around gunned, armed people of a certain persuasion, almost all, to just say that he was going to kill the president. And he said this is on TV. This was widely reported. Ted Nugent was later seen photographed in, now this man has never been to jail for this, seen in a photograph mocking Hillary Clinton in the White House as a guest of Donald Trump's with Sarah Palin, who was John McCain's running mate, So I'm just kind of we're looking at it where you have all these people who just refuse to take responsibility. John McCain, you gave Sarah Palin a platform to support this type of vitriol, this hatred, this violent, behavior. And again, this is Big Sky Body Slammer calling ICE on people, and they got into a little scuffle on the Texas state floor. And I don't know that we expect anything less from Texas, but I just feel like, no offense to anyone from Texas, but y'all just kind of do things a little bit more aggressively there, which is good. The whole Ted Nugent thing and the GOP faux outrage and hypocrisy is nuts to me. Even this morning, you had Trump, once he cleared up Coffee, talking about Barron and how he's so sad for Barron because Barron was startled by the... First of all, nigga, if you lived with your... Sorry, N-word, Trump. First of all, if you lived with your son, he would know that you were alive. he would see him, your son, your estranged son, would seeing a picture of you that didn't look like you on TV, where everyone's talking about how it's fake, would not believe that this was you dead, because there would be no forum for that. I mean, come on. This man is not just watching TV. This man is just not online. Who's there? Melania ain't there to explain it to him before he sees it and be shocked? I talk to my mom every day. And you mean to tell me you haven't talked to him for him to not know that you're not dead? And really, Barron, I know you're 11 years old, so you're a little smarter than that. To say, and this is not a knock on Barron. What I'm saying is they're using Barron as basically this sympathy ploy to be more, oh my God, the kids, what about the kids? No, you don't care about kids. Because if you did, you wouldn't have Betsy DeVos out here ruining schools for everybody. You wouldn't have her out here taking school lunch from people. If you cared about kids, you wouldn't be out here repealing the CHIP program and making sure that kids don't have state-sponsored health insurance so that they can actually live. You're talking about psychological abuse on Barron. Barron will be fine in his ivory tower on Fifth Avenue, okay? Until he chooses to move to the White House, which is, supposed to be better, but apparently it's not for them. So I have no sympathy for the Trump family. Barron, obviously, I'm not his parent. Donald Trump should act more like his parent and be more present in his life, and he wouldn't be worried about pictures that he sees on TV. It's just unrealistic. And Trump always skirts out the kids. He said even the adult kids were distraught by the... Fuck you, dude. Sorry. I put like a 20-second delay on this live stream, which I don't foresee that I'll have to use. But if I seem like I'm a little errant, despite being a little woozy, I'm also on an extreme delay right now. And it's all new to me. So moving along, that's just GOP outrage and hypocrisy could be a whole week-long show, like nonstop week, because they're just ridiculous. But let's talk about Tim Conova. Now, yesterday, and it was early yesterday, Tim Conova, and many of you may know who this is. Tim Conova is the Bernie bro candidate who ran in Florida's district that is currently represented by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was the former chair of the Democratic National Committee, except that she was basically held in a witch hunt and burned at the stake by the Bernie bros and shamed and shunned and all this other stuff. And she still won her re-election, and she still won her race against Tim Conova. She won her primary against Tim Conova that happened a few months before the actual election in Florida. So, one, let's go over the numbers. Debbie beat his ass by 15 points in Florida. He raised copious amounts of money over her. And when he lost to her, this man wouldn't even concede. It's just like in the state Democratic Party contest in California. When the Bernie bro lost, he refused to concede. They started with lawsuits. So this is something that you see over and over with these people. They are sore losers. They haven't won anything. They can't win anything. And when they don't win, they immediately go into lawsuits. Which, I'm not saying that there's never a time and a place for lawsuits, but sometimes you just lose. And 15 points? I mean, come on, Tim. Tim, really? 15 points? You lost decisively, okay? You should have let that one go, just like you should let this go. So I'm really grateful that moving into the runoff election with John Ossoff in Georgia's 6th Congressional District, that we haven't heard much from Bernie Sanders. Seeing the pattern, right, with Bernie endorsing candidates that are up for these smaller races, like Quist in Montana. I'm like, yes, you could talk about early voting playing a role. You could talk about all these things that played a role with the Big Sky Body Slammer winning over Quist. But at the end of the day, Bernie, you're the one claiming that your message is the only one that works. Your message is the only one that will appeal to people. So you have Tim Conova out here now. He's on his own. He started this super PAC, basically, which is the thing that everybody does now. You lose an election, you start a super PAC. And no shade to Hillary Clinton, but you did it too. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's just kind of like, okay, you haven't done anything good in your life up to this point. You haven't accomplished anything. Now you're running a super PAC. What is that about? Like, are you really doing it to make money, or are you doing it to do something good? Now, Hillary Clinton has done good all her life. I imagine that, Stronger Onward Together is going to be a great, PAC to get stuff done. But you look at, this guy is now, I don't know the name of his organization. I don't need to know the name of his organization. But it basically is his own private progressive organization, right, that gets people together. And he was raising money specifically for Georgia to do paper ballots in the race on June 20th. He wants to sue the state of Georgia for that. And my thing is, paper ballots are great. Having a paper trail is great. But, dude, you're not in Georgia. And honestly, there's so many people. You have not said anything good about Jon Ossoff. So your motivation is really not to help Jon Ossoff win. You haven't endorsed him. I don't know that we want you to endorse him. But ultimately, I'm looking at this tweet. You can go to his page. I don't follow him. I'm looking at this tweet and all the comments under it, and they're just attacking Ossoff. It's just, he's a corporate dem, he's a shill, he's a hillbot, he's a this, he's a that. I'm like, dude. Now, you posted this, by the time I saw it, it was like 12 hours. It was a 12-hour-old tweet, but I'm like, okay, you've got like 10 comments on here that are just attacking Jon Ossoff. You haven't responded to any of them. You haven't defended him at all. So what is your motivation to do this lawsuit? Okay, upon further investigation, I didn't want to click on this link and give him the view, but I did. And I looked at it and it said, okay, well, we're collecting money, of course, to to now, and I will be plugging donations for this show at the end of it, so don't call me a hypocrite, because I do that every week. But he's collecting money to pay for the litigation of this lawsuit against the state of Georgia to get paper ballots. And I'm like, okay, but then it said, the gag is, it said half of the money collected will go towards paying for this litigation. I'm just kind of like, well, where's the other half going, dude? To you? Like, why do you deserve half of the money from these donations in a state that you're not even a part of? You're not a part of this party. You don't have a role in this party at all. And so it's just really, it seems really disingenuous. If your goal is to help Jon Ossoff win, and that would seem to be the reason you want to prevent other shenanigans that had supported and bolstered Karen Handel and the other GOP candidates in the original full-on race that happened a few weeks ago, you would have just endorsed him, or you would just say positive things about him. You would just get people to donate to his campaign. But that's not what you're doing. You're getting people to donate to you, and then you want them to pay for this lawsuit that may or may not ever see the light of day, because that race is in 20 days. I mean, early voting for that race actually started today. If you're in the Georgia 6th District, make sure you vote early. Don't wait till the day of, because who knows what can happen. So Tim Conova is just a grifter. He's really quite a disappointment, but not really in the scope of all the other Bernie bros. He's just more of the same. I mean, they really just work. They work the system. They work those donors, and it's sad because he's already shown himself and who he is and his character, and it's just so consistent across all of the Bernie bros and all that they do. So look more into that if you like. I'm over it. Random, and I hate in this live format. I can't really put pictures up until I buy this software, and I don't know how much it costs, but we'll see, because I might do it, might not, but we'll see. But this one, Tom Perez tweeted about volunteers for Jon Ossoff in the 6th District knocking on doors and doing all this stuff, and there was like 10 volunteers in this picture. Not one white man in this picture, not one. Not one white working class soul in this picture of 10. It was like 8 women and then 2 men, and one man was black and one was other. So I'm just kind of like, well, he wasn't white. He didn't look white. If he was white, he had a tan. Honestly, and y'all are probably not gonna believe me when I say this stuff, I often can't tell when people are white. It's like, some people look white to me, but I'm always like squinting sometimes. That was not a hard squint on that person in that picture. Now, if somebody wants to correct me, that person might have been white, I don't know. But even 1 out of 10 people being a white man does not make white men the face of the Democratic Party, as Bernie Sanders is trying to claim. So we're just going to put a fork in that one and let that picture serve as the overwhelming evidence that, the future is female, and the Democratic Party is the party of women and progress and rights for all. It's not about identity politics. It's about civil rights. It's about creating a place for us, for everybody, where everybody's welcome. I mean, I'm sure we would welcome white men to be out there knocking on people's doors for our stuff. They weren't there volunteering. So, hey. That brings us to my grift section of the show, which is the Friends of the Show section. I just want to thank everybody for donating this week. I'm really, really committed to doing the show and making it consistent and making it good, which is why, even despite being kind of under the weather, I really knew I wanted to do something live today or do something that was still comparable to the actual broadcast. So we're trying something new. This was a little bit easier to put together. As you can see, this is just me sitting at my desk. I couldn't set up the whole studio last night in the state that I was in. So if you'd like to become a friend of the show, you can donate by visiting the link paypal.me/JKH2. I also didn't realize until yesterday that if you don't have a PayPal account, you can't send money via PayPal Me. So that was strange. But if you'd like to contribute in other ways, you can you can send an Amazon gift card. And that is at jkh2photo@gmail.com. So jkh2photo@gmail.com would be an account that you could send an Amazon gift card to if that was better for you. And honestly, the way y'all troll me, I probably shouldn't have given out an email address, but too late now. Part of the problem with going live. Friends of the show. I have to give a huge shout out to Jesse. Jesse, you are my rock. And I really, I was extra motivated this week because yesterday we got like 7 donations yesterday. So I just was like, oh my God, I feel sick as hell. But I still got to put something on because these people donated their hard-earned money. So Jesse from Nebraska, thank you. Deborah G. from San Francisco, thank you. Ellen B. from Scottsdale, Arizona, and I believe it's Ellen B. because yes, thank you, Ellen B. from Scottsdale, Arizona. Shannon T. Donna S. of Roswell, Georgia. Shout out to Georgia. Shout out to Georgia 6th Congressional District. Early voting started today, so I hope you're out there, Donna, voting for the resistance. Let's not even clam it up. Vote for John Ossoff. Vote your Ossoff. Anna M. of Valencia, California. Brittany G. of Centerville, Ohio. What's up, girl from Ohio? Thank you for always, just for all the support on Twitter. And this is everybody, but, some people I talk to a little bit more than others. Eugene F. from Middlebury, Vermont. Barry K. And Jack A. also from Twitter. Thank you. Thank you. So just a little update on what we're going to be doing just moving forward. That's the end of the show. But as far as the next episodes, this is episode season 1, episode XX. So it's not going to count as an episode. Each season of Not on My Watch is going to have between 24 and 22 episodes. Now, I set out to do 22 episodes, and that will give me 8 weeks a year to take off for weeks like this. But I never really know when I'm not going to tape because I don't know if it's going to be a slow news week or I don't know if I might have to do something else or whatever. With this happening today, I just figure I might as well take the next week off too and really just focus on getting the studio a little bit more prepared to set up. I know a lot of y'all know that I have been procuring a table and doing some other stuff that I talked about to launch the cooking series, which I have not named yet, but I plan to start taping on that within the next 2 weeks. So I'm going to take 2 weeks, including this week, off. Next week, there will not be an episode of Not on My Watch. I might do a live stream, and it'll probably be shorter than this, assuming this goes well. And then I will be back on, I guess that's June 17th. And I think that'll be pretty apropos because God, I'm getting text from my alumni association. I'm just checking this date so I can tell you. Sorry, that's June 14th. I'll be back. That'll be right before the runoff election in Georgia, or not runoff, but yeah, the runoff election in Georgia, and then so that'll give me 4 episodes at least to tape and discuss like that particular segment of the resistance. But I'll still be doing it. But the numbering on the episodes will be different until June 14th. We'll come back with episode 19, and God knows what that will be about. And then at some point in time, by August 1st, you should look for the first episodes of the cooking show to air. It's going to be taped a little bit differently than this. It's going to be in HD. It's going to be because I'll have time to actually tape it and record it into episodes and export a full episode that takes about 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours in HD, depending on how long that episode is. So I can't do that with not on my watch. I have to record it, like export it for YouTube. So the quality is always a little bit shoddier. So those are just a couple things you should look forward to. I am feeling much better. I just needed to do this live format to get something out within a reasonable amount of time, and now it's 4:16. So I started taping about 30 minutes ago. So as always, I like to ask you and remind